This is Inspirational Women, a weekly series shining the spotlight on female trailblazers making a true difference in our community. Once again, here is Kate Daniels.
Now on to a summer read. Sheila Roberts is a local author who joins us to let us in on some insights to her newest book just recently in bookstores, Love on the Shelf. Sheila Roberts, good morning. It's so wonderful to have you join us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to get a chance to talk to you. I just know we're going to have a great conversation.
I have a sneaky suspicion we just might do that. Oh, so world, get ready, right?
That's right.
For an astounding conversation. Well, the thing here, Sheila, is that, we live in the same neck of the woods here in the Puget Sound area. Although you've been here, you're a lifelong Washingtonian.
I am. I'm dating myself. I went to good old Queen Anne High for all you Seattle people. And as we all know, that's condominiums now. Kind of wish I had taken the tour when we had the chance and checked those out, because it would have been fun to be living in my old high school. But yeah, oh my gosh, I have so many fun memories of things in Seattle. I remember just as a kid going to the Seattle World's Fair and riding the Bubbleator, if anybody remembers the Bubbleator and the Fun Forest and all the fun things of that era of Seattle. It's just like I have so many good memories. And we're just across the Sound now. We didn't move too far away.
And it's lovely. I've lived across the Sound as well, but that's been a couple of decades ago. But it is beautiful. And then you get to take the ferry typically, right?
Yes,
to come
it's very fun. Yeah. Very fun.
And especially on a gorgeous summer day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's just no place like the Pacific Northwest. This is just the most beautiful area. And I still just love it here. I don't think I'll ever get uprooted. I'm just got the roots too deep now.
Although, do you leave the area to live part-time elsewhere or not?
Yeah, we did for a while. We've got kids in California, and so we were doing half and half. But that was when COVID came along, and my husband's a professor, and finally everybody had to go back in the classroom. And so, well, maybe we will just keep our property up here, and we'll just go down and visit. So we still go down to sunny California quite a bit, but we're pretty much rooted here now.
Yes. Oh, and so many Californians are moving up here. So, we already have the advantage of being here.
That's right. We beat you here, guys.
Yeah. This is home territory.
Yes.
So the thing that surprises me is the fact that you have been here and writing in our Puget Sound area for, a few years, because
forever.
You have 50 books to your credit.
Yeah, I'm beyond that now. I'm up to 60, so I've been a busy bee.
I'll say. So this obviously has been your career path, yes?
It has. And I will say, as I'm talking about the number of books, if we were talking earlier, I'm like Cher, I just keep reinventing myself. I think I'm a great example of how to not give up. As I've managed to crash my writing career a couple of times, and just went, okay, well, now what will I do? Now what will I write? So I've written all kinds of different things under different names, everything from write for hire, the devotionals, to self-help, to you name it, and I've done it. And it's all been a great learning experience. And I am bunny trailing already, but I think hopefully that's maybe an inspiration to somebody who's going, oh, now what do I do? There are so many different directions we can go in life. And if the old joke about, if the door closes, a window opens somewhere else, however that saying goes, you always be open to pivoting, because you never know what new thing is right around the corner.
And so as you reflect on this, and I've had those changes go on in my life too. So you've done it. And what's been the experience as you get into a different chapter, onto a new path, having recreated yourself?
Well, it's always a new adventure. And sometimes you are starting from scratch. And there's nothing wrong with starting from scratch, either. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Everything is an adventure. And I do feel that we often, those hopes and dreams we have, sometimes we give up on them a little too quickly. And so I think it's important to just, if you have what they call, the fire in the belly to be doing something, then don't give up too easily on it. Doesn't mean that maybe you're not supposed to go a different direction, but I just think it's real important to explore all avenues and be open and willing to do, what needs to be done. And it's always a surprise. And then sometimes chapters do end. And then if a chapter of something in your life is ending, well, then that means turn the page. It's time for a new chapter.
Right. So I feel that, in these conversations I have with wonderful people like yourself, there's always some nugget that is going to mean something to someone, or maybe there'll be a number of different nuggets. The stories are so important in terms of encouragement, in terms of really giving perhaps direction that a person will find themselves saying, oh, yeah, I did have that feeling, or I did have that insight. And so it's so wonderful to hear these stories and have you really be yourself an open book.
Yeah, I think it's important to share not just your successes, but your failures. If all you ever share are the successes, you're just a walking facade. And I don't know that that necessarily helps anybody. I think it's important for people to know that most of us who have any measure of success, and not that I have a huge measure, but any measure, it isn't like, the success fairy came and sprinkled fairy dust on you. Many of my friends who are overnight successes have worked very, very hard over the years to get there. And sometimes it just takes a while.
Yes. Yes, there are some quotes about that which escape me at the moment, but about, this success wasn't overnight. It took 10 years to get to be an overnight success. Maybe some people have something happen, but I think generally there's just a lot going on behind the scenes, different things that we're learning and trying out before all of a sudden it just really kind of just erupts into this, what looks magical.
And sometimes you see that, and it's very easy to jump to those conclusions and maybe get a little green-eyed, and well, it sure came easy to her. And I don't think anything comes easy to hardly anybody. Most of us really do have to work for it. It's so interesting. This is a year before last, we did a little British Isles cruise, and we hit Liverpool, and we did a Beatles tour. Ooh. And you know what? That was so interesting because we heard the background of all these guys in this rock band that just really changed in that era, changed the whole rock industry. And every one of those men went through hard things, and they all really paid their dues playing in this little bar for years. And then they were in Germany working out their sound and blah, blah, blah. But their personal lives, even, they all had struggles and things that they had to overcome. And I thought, the average fan just sees, ta-da, the Beatles. But underneath that are all these things that these guys went through. And I do think that is the case with so many people, so many of my writing friends. It looked like, oh man, look at that. They are so successful. Like Debbie Maycomber, she jokes, it only took me 20 years to be an overnight success. And Kristen Hanna, who is just big now and well-deserved, but she has worked so hard over the years and labored very hard on her books to make them the very best they could be. And it's well-earned success. It's not like, oh, she's the golden girl, and all of a sudden, boom, she's fabulous. It's like she worked for years becoming who she is as a writer.
As you mentioned these other Northwest writers, there's this network that I believe exists that you do collaborate in the sense of get together and know each other. And I don't know what else you might do, but, with your mentioning it, it just feels just so wholesome and wonderful to have these connections.
It is. And this community here, the writers community, is just a very giving and kind and open-armed one. And so many of us, in fact, gosh, in one of my really career crashes, I remember my friend Susan Wiggs and Jill Barnett, who is not writing now. She's switched to becoming a very influential editor. But I remember being at Susan's, and they gave me chocolate and champagne and consoled me and said, it's okay, you're going to come out of this. And I remember Susan, I will always remember this quote saying, Sheila, the only writers who end up failing are the ones who give up and don't keep trying. And it was like, you just keep trying. And I took her advice, and that relaunched my career. And I think back to that, the kindness for them, just, okay, we're going to have a huddle here, and we're going to encourage you and tell you, don't give up. It's not over. And I've tried to do that for other friends when they're going through that now too, because it's so important to encourage each other. And I guess, boy, I kind of like One Note Johnny here, aren't I? It's like, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. But I think it's so easy to do in this society because we get so insta everything. And I just need to be an insta influencer. I need to be an insta this and insta that, instant success. And sometimes success is something that you have to grow very slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I also love with what you just shared about those connections, about the kindness. It's so critical in being a success, that generosity of spirit. They weren't thinking, well, I can't support her because if I give any of myself there, I might be losing it. Well, no, it just grows. I mean, they continue to do their work and they've encouraged you, and then you continue to grow and you want to share that with others.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is really special. So if we wind back this clock, did you dream of being a writer? How did you enter onto this path?
Oh, that's so funny. I was always, even as a little kid, I was writing
Ah,
stories and songs. And music really was another part of my life. I did dabbled in songwriting, played in bands. I had a singing telegram company. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. And the writing, same thing. I was writing articles and short stories for magazines, and I was always dabbling. And then at one point, and we had some very lean years. And I remember I had gotten an idea for a book that I thought would be really fun. And I had a girlfriend who was a writer. And I remember saying, I should share this with Sharon. I bet this would be a good book. And then I went, wait a minute. I need money. Maybe I'll write this book. And so I just on a whim, I wrote this book, and then she helped me. We went through. There was I can't think the name is evading me at the moment, but there's a big fat book that you could get that would list all the different publishers and editors and agents. And we opened that book and went, here's a name. Oh, try her. I've heard of her. And found an agent and just completely stumbled into my writing career. So that was an interesting adventure. I have this theory too. This came really easily, but my theory is that in this business, everybody pays their dues. You will either pay them at the beginning of their career, the middle of your career, or the end of your career. But at some point, you're going to pay your dues, and hard times are going to come a knocking, and they're going to say your dues are due, and then you got to go through some struggling and do some emotional and mental weightlifting and get back on track. And so like I said, I just fell into my writing career, didn't have a clue what I was doing, and bumbled along. And then I finally bumbled myself into a mess, and now I have to reinvent myself. Oh, okay, what will I do now? Who will I be now? And so then I'll become this person. And then I kind of bumbled along and had another time of, this is not working. Okay, who will I be now? And I finally figured out who I was. It took me many, many years to grow up, but I think I'm almost there. And so it was just like this process, but I have another theory. I have all kinds of theories. I have another theory. I believe that often things that children are drawn to when they're little are an indication of what they'll be doing when they're older. And I've talked to more people about this. That one friend, I've always played nurse. I just wanted to be a nurse. And well, guess what? She became as an adult. She was in the medical field. And another one, I was always writing stories. My friend Susan Weeks, she was writing stories. I wish my mom had kept mine. She didn't think to do that. I'm surprised because she was such a stage mother. But Susan's kept her first book. And it was called A Story About Some Mean Kids. I think she was mad at her siblings or something. But so many people, when you talk to them, you'll see that interest coming out. They were always very artistic or creative. And I think it's a good reminder for us as parents, keep an eye, because something that your kid is interested in now could very well be something they'll end up doing as an adult. So encourage those talents.
Oh, heartily underscore yes, exclamation point. Definitely. I think there are those signs. And so I love that was something that was going on for you as a child, but you kind of lost sight of it for a while as you entered adulthood.
Yeah, I was always kind of on the side. And what I really did want to do was be a songwriter. That was, oh my gosh, trips to Nashville, song demos, you name it, I did it. And a lot of my friends moved to Nashville. And I remember, I want to move to Nashville. By this time we had 3 children. Our oldest was handicapped. And my husband, I just couldn't convince him that he should quit his job and we should all move to Nashville with no money to pursue Sheila's dream of becoming a songwriter. It just, that's not working. But it's kind of funny. I've continued to dabble. And years ago, I wrote a song called Merry Christmas Mama. And we wrote it to go with an older book of mine. It was called Merry Xmas. And in that story, there's the mother-in-law who is a pain in the neck and interfering, and the musician writes this song and it gets him in big trouble with the ex. He's trying to get back together with the ex. Anyway, I thought, let's do a song. And so we wrote Merry Christmas Mama. It's still up on YouTube. I get kidnapped by Santa Claus. I'm the mean mom. And it was so much fun. And so it's, I guess that's another way of saying don't give up on your dreams. Maybe what you want to do won't quite look like what you envisioned, but you can still enjoy being able to do it in some form or other.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Very wise. Absolutely. And that fulfills a part of ourselves, even if it's not going to be, the whole career, but making sure that we experience that to some degree, I think is really important to acknowledge. As you talk about songwriting, though, it brings to mind the movies, and you've certainly had that happen. Did you expect that you could have a book, or even more than one book, made into a movie?
No, and I've got a wild imagination, but that is something that never even entered my mind. It was such a fun surprise. The first one was On Strike for Christmas. That just sort of happened. It happened so fast. I didn't even get a chance to visit the set or weasel in to get a cameo. Darn. But it's so funny. And then along came The Nine Lives of Christmas, and we did get to visit the set for that and got a little cameo role. And that was so much fun. I was sure that was going to launch me on my career being on Dancing with the Stars. Somehow I never got on. I tried. I actually auditioned.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
And something now, there is another little bit of wisdom, you guys. Some of those things that you really think that would be wonderful to do maybe wouldn't be the best. I always joke that, oh my gosh, if I went on Dancing with the Stars now, I would go down for the splits and I'd never come up again. And so, some things you just think you're meant to do. And this was a few years back. I really, that was my favorite show for so long. And we did this cruise, and they had their own little Dancing with the Stars where you could come up and dance with the crew member and be in a dance competition. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to do this. Of course, this is my post-chemo white hair. My hair's white by then. They're thinking, oh, great, here comes grandma. And it was so much fun. We did all these different dance type of styles, but I was with this great big guy, and the competition was getting fierce. And so he's finally like, he's going to spin me on his back. So he goes, get up on my back. I was like trying to climb a telephone pole. It was really bad. It was like I Love Lucy does dance class. And finally he's spinning me around, my legs going every which way. And probably fortunately the video of that is lost somewhere online, never to be found again. But it was just, my husband was filming it and could hardly hold the camera still because I was making such a fool of myself. It was like, but again, you know what? You got to go for stuff. And at least I scratched that itch and I realized, okay, you really were not meant to go on Dancing with the Stars.
But see, you weren't left wondering and pining for that to happen because you knew, okay, yeah, did it, not what I want.
That's right. Yeah. It was fun to do, but I thought, thank you, God, for not letting me go on Dancing with the Stars. Oh my gosh, that would have been bad.
But see how I love your what is the joie de vivre, that your joy of life, of wanting to just experience things, and you go for it, and you just have this delightful laugh that I think speaks volumes, really, to just go for the things that we want to, and rather than say, oh well, no, I couldn't possibly. And we really do shortchange ourselves that way, don't we?
I think you're right. I think we do. Well, and look at you, all the things you're doing too. You're such a great example of, what a fun thing you're doing, getting to interview people. That is just so cool, and having been a librarian and working with books. Those are two top best world things to be doing, and if you don't reach out for things, how are you going to know if you're even going to be able to grab a hold of it? If you don't reach, you'll never get. So yes. There's nothing wrong with reaching out and seeing what you can latch on to.
Oh, yes. And then the experiences that you have, the people you meet, the different doors that may open, as you had said earlier, Sheila, that a door closes, a window opens, or the other way around will happen. And it's all great and good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we need to talk about this book that landed in my hands. Love on the Shelf. Talk about,
yeah. Just happen to have a copy.
Isn't that a surprise?
What a surprise. Oh, gosh. Yeah, this is a fun book. I do love to write books that always have a little bit of an underlying message and where maybe the reader will come away encouraged. One of my other favorites was the Best Life Book Club with these women that form friendships and they learn, the more they read, the more their lives expand. So I think maybe I got a book theme going here. And in this book, it centers around a romance bookstore. And as I'm sure you're aware, romance is the thing. It is having a moment. And romance bookstores are springing up everywhere. And women are just loving this whole escape into the world where everything wraps up beautifully and we all do get our happy endings. And I think this book kind of deals with that a little bit. We have got this guy who's become kind of a shock jock, and he's just decided that, men need defending, and romance novels they're bad because they're bad for relationships and they create unrealistic expectations. And I think sometimes you do hear that a little bit. And as you, I'm sure, are aware, romance has always kind of been a little looked down upon, kind of like a second-class citizen, like romance novels, who's going to read? And for a while, women they kind of hide, I'm reading a romance novel, don't anybody look. And I think this genre has finally come into its own. And I think it's about time, because when you think about, romance novel, doggone, Jane Austen, I mean, the Brontes, for heaven's sake, romance novels definitely have a place in the world of literature. And so my little heroine, who was a little bit on the shy side, she and her mother own HEA books in West Seattle. As a matter of fact, I gave West Seattle a bookshop. And she winds up having to go on air and debate this guy about why romance novels are important. And it's kind of kicks off a whole series of events. We have all kinds of goofy stuff going. He is being a bad influence on so many people. We have men, they decide, okay, we're going to boycott Valentine's Day as a big joke. Haha, don't buy flowers, don't buy candy. And of course, the women come up with a plan to thwart that, which is, I think, was very fun. And so we see this guy and some of his followers kind of getting put through their paces, and him going along. His name is Parker Black, and he is such a stinker. Oh my gosh, he is such a stinker at the beginning of this book. You think, let's be done with him right now. But I'm very happy because Parker learns a few things. And one of the things he learns by the end of the book, and is kind of a little theme that threads through it, is that love always wins. And I really believe that. His mom just happens to be a romance book writer. And so the guy, I mean, he's just really stepped into it, and it's pretty fun. And I'm very, very happy with how Parker evolves by the end of the book. He gives me my big gesture moment. And we just kind of ride off into the sunset and know that these people are going to work out their relationship issues, and that maybe romance novels are not such a bad thing to read after all.
Yes. Imagine that, right? And the thing that I appreciate is that, or one of the things, because there's a lot to appreciate here, but it's not a quick transformation, which, sometimes in our lives things can happen quickly, but generally it's kind of slow to turn ourselves around and become that better person, the bigger person. So I thought in that sense it was really realistic. Did you have that intent as you were developing this character?
Well, we do get embedded in our views. And it's interesting because I think we all tend to look at life through the lens of our own experiences. I had a bad relationship, therefore, all women are just, they're all users, or all men are just horrible. I mean, we just tend to, or I know this person's using you, Susie, because my ex used me. And that's not always the case, but we do tend to project, and we do tend to hold tightly. And sometimes it takes a bit of work to pry our hands off those preconceptions about what life is in general. And I think that is a case here, what we've got going on with Parker. He's had an experience, and he has just taken this one little thing and then said, well, that just applies to everyone. And I don't think that's usually the case. But I did want it to be a bit of a slow evolution because, again, it takes time. Very few of us have an overnight epiphany where we change our mind. Sometimes we really have to return to a subject more than once to have it get internalized. And I know some of our really dedicated romance readers who just always want their hero to be perfect from the beginning. Well, that isn't always true either, and so in a way, I'm always feeling like, well, maybe we don't want to necessarily call this so much a rom-com or a romance as a novel. This is just a fun Battle of the Sexes novel. And, and both in the end, in this particular Battle of the Sexes, everyone wins. And I think that is the bottom line too, with romance. In the end, everyone wins. We overcome our difficulties. We work things out. We lock arms and we go, okay, we're going to fix these conflicting goals. We're going to meld our dream together, and we're going to become a team. And I think that's the beauty behind romance novels, is that message of, yes, you can make this work. You can overcome. Love always wins.
Mm-hmm. And depending on the relationships, but I think about in this case, with Parker, what was he not learning along the way? Was he just looking for the superficiality of the women that he was with? Often that happens. It's like, what does a person look like? Are they going to look great out in public with me? Like, rather than looking for the essence, what is really important, this person's character, right? So it took him a little while to learn that. He had to overcome some things.
But it did, and he was in a bad relationship. And again, you can let that scar you.
Yeah.
He felt very used and abused by the woman he was with. She was very manipulative. And again, so you do this is my one little experience, therefore it must be true for everyone. And of course, that's never the case. But it's very hard, I think, for us in life. If you've had some kind of a bad experience, it's very hard to get past that and give anybody a second chance, or anything a second chance. I failed at this particular thing, therefore I'm just going to pull in. And I think that's very easy. It's easy to fall into that trap, but hopefully everybody will be like Parker, and they will not get locked into that one bad experience, but they'll be able to expand beyond that and say, nope, I'm going to give this a second try.
And that's where there's so much beauty in books, that we get to experience vicariously these different situations in life, and we can learn and grow from that. And, maybe we find ourselves in the midst of that, but the book in some hours is going to help us to learn something rather than having to take months or years of our own life trying to figure it all out.
One would hope.
Yeah.
And speaking of books, I got to say, one of my favorite scenes in the book is they finally do this trading places thing where she takes over the microphone in the studio on his sports show, knows nothing about sports, but turns out all the men callers are very happy to help her learn. And they just all fall in love with Alice. And of course, Parker's going to have to fall in love with Alice too, because who doesn't love Alice? I love Alice. But one of my favorite parts in the book is where he has to do time in the romance bookstore, helping everybody buy their romance novels. And I just had so much fun with that. I thought, what can you do to torture your hero? Put him in a situation that he would just rather have his fingernails pulled off than being put in. And that was just, I had so much fun with that. That was just fun.
So can't you just imagine this being on Hallmark?
Yeah, I think it'll be a very fun Hallmark movie, but who knows? I'm always thinking my books would be a fun Hallmark movie. I think it's time for another Hallmark movie.
Yes, because it's been a while. It's been quite a few years since the last one. I do remember seeing it, and they don't. I guess the author is mentioned, but it's kind of buried in the credits. But that was a good one. It was really cute. I enjoyed that one.
That's just a fun experience to have that happen. And we've had, I've had a couple since then too. We did one, Great American Family Channel did my novel, Christmas on Candy Cane Lane. And that was a fun experience. We got to visit the set and everybody was so nice, had such a good time. But that was a lesson learned too, because when you sell a book to the movie people, it's no longer your brain baby. It's now their creation, and they're going to make the story the way they want to make it. But I remember being so shocked when I read the log line for it, because they did away with one of the anchor characters, Muriel Sterling, the mom, and she appears in several books in the Icicle Falls series. And it's like, and Muriel Sterling has died. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Muriel Sterling isn't even alive in this. Oh my gosh, what happened? But then it was like, well, again, this is somebody's own creative vision, and you just got to let go of that. So I think that was a good reminder of, in so many things in life, you cannot control everything, nor should you. And sometimes you just have to let go of stuff and go, oh, well, that's the way that went.
On to the next.
On to the next great adventure,
Yes. Well, this has been an adventure. I can't believe how quickly this time has just flown by, but it's been so much fun to connect with you, Sheila Roberts.
Oh, I absolutely agree. This has been just great. I so appreciate you having me on.
Well, my pleasure. And for people to find out how to find you, your website?
Yes, Sheila'sPlace.com. And of course, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Sheila Roberts Writer, Fun with Sheila. And do find me and have fun with me. We have a good time.
And certainly pick up this latest book, Love on the Shelf. Great fun, right?
Thank you.
And this has been great fun. Thank you so greatly for being with us, Sheila Roberts.
It's been lovely.
Thank you for being here this morning to meet these special guests who share their life and their experiences to encourage us to do likewise in our own life. Please check this station's website for the podcasts for more information about these guests, and please share the stories with your family and friends. I'm Kate Daniels. If you'd like to connect with me, simply send me an email, katedaniels@hubbardradio.com. And I leave you with this thought. Joy does not simply happen to us. We have to choose joy and keep choosing it every day.
Thank you for listening to Inspirational Women. Tune in every Sunday morning at this time to hear about those truly empowering the Northwest community, all for the greater good. Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women are a public service of Hubbard Radio Seattle.